Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Thursday, which means weekly review and match preview for this coming Saturday's game, which is massive as we attempt to get out of the Sky Bet League One relegation zone when we host Scunthorpe. But we'll get onto that later on in the vlog. Firstly, big news this week broke earlier on Monday or Tuesday. Club captain Gabriel Zakuani is looking likely to be out for the rest of the season with ankle ligament damage sustained in that clash with Kiefer Moore at the end of last Saturday's 4-1 defeat at home to Barnsley. It is a big blow, obviously in terms of leadership skills. I think Gabby would be big enough and honest enough to admit that he's probably not quite hit the levels that he did last season, but it still will be a big miss. Especially with the fact that Alex Lacey, who'd likely be the first choice replacement, is himself out injured at the moment, so it only leaves us with Max Amar as a fully fit, recognised out and out centre half. We have Connor Ogilvie who can fill in, and we also have Billy Bingham who could perhaps fill in at a push, and then it's down to the youngsters like Jack Tucker and Ryan Huckle. So it'll be interesting to see how we go moving forward with Gab out for what looks like to be the rest of the campaign. Interesting comments from Steve Lovell, which are coming up on your screen now. That is the quote from Steve, and he says, defensively, we have got cover in all areas. Connor can slip in and play centre half. We have Billy Bingham, I have Barry Fuller, Luke O'Neill and Bradley Garmston. Yes, we do have Luke O'Neill, Barry Fuller and Bradley Garmston, but none of them are natural centre-backs. Connor Ogilvie, I think, probably is a slightly better centre-back than he is a left-back, but it remains to be seen whether he's as good in a 2 as he is in a 3. But looks like Saturday we'll get a chance to see firsthand how he gets on, because options are pretty limited. So yeah, not really understanding Steve Lovell's point that we've got loads of cover, because suddenly we look really light. We've got 2 senior centre halves really, Connor Ogilvie and Max Amar. So be interesting to see what the lineup is at the weekend in terms of changing the system and going 3 at the back. I'm not sure it's possible because I don't think we have enough people that can play that role. But we've just got to get on with it, dig deep, and it is an opportunity for someone to step out of the shadows and from the fringes and become a hero, so to speak, and step into the breach and hopefully make us more solid defensively, because we have conceded far too many all season long. That's the Inside the Medway Messenger Thursday's edition. There is a shouting men column again, and that is this man coming up on your screen who we're going to do an in focus on. That is, of course, January arrival Ricky Holmes, who came in on deadline day on loan from Sheffield United for the rest of the campaign. Generally met with excitement upon the breaking news that he'd arrived. We were then told that he had a problem with his back and was going to miss maybe a couple of weeks. So it's a little bit surprising to read today. Ricky himself has come out and made this statement in his column. My goal is to be back to face Oxford on March the 9th. If I achieve it, I do, but if not, any games I do get, even if it is 3 or 4, will hopefully be a benefit to me and to this club. I'm not so sure, to be quite honest. Why oh why we've been told he's only a couple of weeks away, and when he arrives, and that's 2 weeks ago, and now we're being told that March the 9th is hopefully the goal for him to come back in. That's another month away, pretty much. So that's 6 weeks since signing where we wouldn't have seen him, and he's not making any guarantees that he's going to be fit for then. So in terms of him playing only 3 or 4 games and it benefiting us as well as him, I'm not sure how it's going to benefit us, because if we're entrenched in the relegation zone by then, it could well be too late. I mean, we're all hoping that it don't come to that, but I don't know how to work it out. It's just an odd signing then if he's not going to be fit for another 4-5 weeks potentially. If it was a fortnight, 3 weeks, then fair enough, you could understand getting him in before the window had closed. But now we're looking at another month, and if he doesn't make that target and then it becomes the end of March, we're only going to see him for a month of the season, and Christ knows where we'll be by then. And it's a real shame because Ricky Holmes is an exceptional player at this level. Left-footed, provides balance, can play in the hole, can play as a winger, scores and creates goals. I mean, we've seen him plenty of times play for Charlton against us, and he's run us ragged, to be quite honest, but he's no good to anyone if he's stuck in the treatment room. He talks very highly of Mark Byrne and says that Burner had a lot to do with the deal because they were teammates at Barnet a few years ago and they're good mates and have been close ever since. Makes an interesting comment as well about wanting to say something in the dressing room after last week's game. But he said he didn't feel it was his place to say. But I think a player of his experience, if he's got something to say and he thinks it's going to help us and help our cause, then I think he should be saying it regardless of how long he's been with us. We need all the leadership that we can get in that dressing room at the moment, and especially with the news that Gabriel Zakuani is going to be missing for quite a long time. I think it could do no harm at all in other people taking responsibility and speaking up and telling others maybe a few home truths, or putting an arm around people and saying this is what we've got to do to put it right, because we have to simply start putting it right quicker rather than later, because we are in the bottom four and we're running out of football matches to play, and we need probably another 18, 19 points from our remaining 15 fixtures. So the quicker we can get there, the better. But there's no guarantees, and it looks like it will be a battle right to the wire again. But yeah, hopefully we can get Ricky Holmes fit as quick as possible and see him and see the benefits of him. But all we can do is keep our fingers crossed and hope that he's back as soon as possible. In terms of news in brief, there are a couple of bits to get through, so we shall talk about them now. Just a little bit about Tavon Campbell, who wasn't even on the bench last Saturday against Barnsley, having been on the bench the week before, 2 days after arriving against Coventry. Talks about how there's familiar faces at the Priestfield. He was in the same youth team as Bradley Garmston at West Bromwich Albion, played alongside Thomas Eaves and Alex Lacey at Yeovil, and it seems that he does have, despite his young age of only 22, have good experience of relegation battles. He's helped the likes of Yeovil, Notts County and Forest Green beat the drop in League Two, and he's played a big part in Forest Green's promotion push this season. But it seems that chances are now limited because of the fiasco between Forest Green and Bolton regarding the deal for Bolton to sign Christian Doidge on a permanent and then not having any money and not doing it and going back on their word, I think, is the feeling amongst Forest Green directors and supporters. And Doidge is now back there, and obviously he's going to play because he's an absolute top player at League Two level and he'll score plenty of goals. So Tavon Campbell's decided to move on and come to us on loan for the rest of the campaign, and let's hope that he can have an impact and help us pull away from the drop zone. And the other bit of news is Liam Nash has finally left the club. It was announced earlier in the week that he decided to have his contract terminated along with Gilles, and he has joined League of Ireland side Cork City ahead of their new campaign starting. He had been out on there. I've seen a couple of Instagram stories from Liam, and he'd been out to Dublin a couple of times, I think, on the plane to have trial games and friendly matches, and the deal has got across the line. He says that he can't wait to get going. I want to get myself back out there, my confidence, scoring goals and working hard. I just want to give everything on match day and hopefully progress and get some goals. My opinion hasn't changed. It was a low-risk move in summer of 2017 when he come on board. Scored a lot of goals at a lot of a lower level. And in terms of wages and risk, it wasn't much of a problem. It hasn't worked out for one reason or another. Some people think he's not been given a fair chance. Other people think he's probably just not quite good enough at the moment. But let's hope that for Nash's sake, he goes and does well at Cork and maybe gets a move back to England, because no disrespect to the League of Ireland, it's not the biggest league, and if he can score goals over there regularly and come back to England and maybe get a move to, I don't know, National League or a League Two side and continue to progress, there's plenty of time for him to move back up the footballing ladder. So we wish Liam all the best, thank him for his services, and we all move on. That is football. But yeah, obviously the big thing coming up at the weekend is a game against this side. Scunthorpe United pitch up at the Priestfield this Saturday as we try to overcome them and get last week's mauling at the hand of Barnsley out of our system. Steve Lovell talks in the Medway Messenger about this side having a good week in terms of training. They know what they've got to do. They realise the situation they're in. He says it just shows we could win Saturday and go on a run. If we win the next 5, we are pretty much safe with 10 games to go. That's how easy it can happen. Yes and no. There's no sign, unfortunately, of us winning 5 games on the bounce at the moment. There's very little sign of us winning more than 2 games on the bounce. I think Steve Lovell's biggest winning run at home since arriving is 2 games. So that says a lot. That speaks volumes and points to why we are where we are. Unfortunately, the home form simply hasn't been good enough for far too long. And I talked about it on Twitter in the week and last weekend, and I think we've won something like 27% of our home games in the last 3 or 4 seasons, which simply equals being near the bottom of the table. And you have to then have good away form to keep yourself out of trouble. And all the time you're like that, there's a danger that you are going to keep getting sucked in below that dreaded drop line. And we are below it at the moment, and we have to show everything to get out of it. Scunthorpe arrive in decent form as well. I know when we beat them away before Christmas, they was entrenched in the middle of a horrible run, I think, which was about 6, 7 or 8 defeats on the bounce, but now they've only lost 1 in 8. In terms of form, last 6, Gillingham have 1 single win and 2 draws to give us 5 points from 18 available. Scunthorpe have only 1 defeat, 3 wins and a draw. Sorry, 4 wins and a draw, so that's 13 points from the last 18 available. So they are absolutely flying under Stuart McCall at the moment. In terms of home and away, they've taken 9 points on the road from the last 6 games, which is 3 wins and 3 defeats. And we have exactly the same record as we do overall, and that is 5 points from the last 18, which is a solitary win, which was back on Boxing Day against then league leaders Portsmouth. They've got players that are recognisable at this level. Lee Novak, I think, is their top scorer of about 11 goals. James Perch will bring experience. They've got Cameron Borthwick Jackson, a young fullback on loan from Manchester United, so he comes from a good background. Josh Morris, who we know a couple of seasons ago had an absolute belter of a campaign. Not quite hit them heights since, but he'll still be a threat if you allow him time on the ball, which is what we tend to do at the moment at home. We tend to stand off too much, so we need to really get in their faces from the first whistle and let them know that we're about and press high and stop them playing, because we didn't do that at all against Barnsley last week and we got absolutely ripped to shreds. In terms of team news for us, obviously no Gabriel Zakwani and no Alex Lacey. Billy Bingham is back in training, but I'd imagine he's only 50-50. So in terms of a team, I would be making a few changes, and my team would be Thomas Holy in goal, Barry Fuller right back, Bradley Garmston left back, and a centre back pairing of Max Amart and Connor Ogilvie. I would then revert to the diamond, and I would have Darren Oldacre at the base, Leonardo da Silva Lopez from the right of that diamond, and Callum Riley from the left, and Graham Burke from the point. Graham Burke wasn't great last Saturday, but all the reports I heard the week before on debut against Coventry, especially from Boz and Stocky, who went up there and watched, were that he was decent and has plenty of ability, so I'd keep him in. And I would go with a forward pairing of Elliot List and Tom Eaves. So a few changes there, the likes of, obviously, Gabriel Zakwani comes out, I'm taking Mark Byrne out, I'm taking Josh Rees out, and I'm taking Brandon Hanlon out. My bench would be Thomas Hadler, Luke O'Neill, Josh Rees, Mark Byrne, Dean Parrott, Tarvon Campbell and Brandon Hanlon. I've left out Billy King completely this week. I didn't see a lot from him last Saturday. That may be harsh, trying to make your home debut against a very good side in Barnsley, but we need some inspiration and we need it from somewhere and we need it fast. So that would be my 18. In terms of a prediction, as I always say, if we can get the right people in the right position, in the right system, we can give most teams a game. And if we can do that, I'm going to go for a very nervy 2-1 Gillingham win. That might be clutching at straws a little bit, some people might think, but we desperately need a win, and I'm desperately hoping that we get a reaction to last week's abomination of a performance at home to Barnsley. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Gillingham. It won't be fun. It'll probably be attritional and hard work and ugly at times, but I'm hoping and praying that we can get over the line and pick up a massive 3 points. And I'm going to say Tom Eaves and Callum Riley will score our goals. Right, that is it from me this evening. We will be there on Saturday, myself, Boz and Stocky, for Matchday Live. Come and say hello before the game if you wish. Please keep doing all you keep doing, which is commenting on YouTube, commenting on Facebook, commenting on Twitter, liking, sharing, retweeting, and most of all subscribing. And until next time, up the Gills.